You know, when a surgeon puts down a scalpel, you'd think its job is over, but really, its day is just getting started. We're about to follow the secret, high-stakes journey that very instrument takes to get ready for the next patient. It's this invisible process that saves lives, and it all happens behind the scenes.
So what happens the second it leaves the surgeon's hand? Well, that tool is now officially contaminated. It's covered in what's called bioburden. Yep, that's a mix of blood, tissue, and a whole world of microorganisms. What comes next isn't just a simple cleaning. It's an incredibly precise, engineered battle that's one of the most critical processes in all of medicine.
And I'm not exaggerating when I call it a battle. This is a journey to fight an enemy you can't even see. And there's zero room for error. A single misstep here could cause a life-threatening infection for the next person on that operating table.
All right, so to really understand how this battle is won, we're going to follow an instrument through 6 key stages. We'll start by getting to know the enemy. Then we'll see the first line of defense, run the decontamination gauntlet, prep for the final test, hit that absolute 0 point of sterility, and finally close the loop in the cycle of safety. So, let's kick things off by defining the battlefield. And really, what's at stake? Why is all this so incredibly important? Well, it all comes down to fighting an enemy we literally cannot see. And here's our enemy, the pathogen. It's the official name for any microbe. We're talking bacteria, viruses, fungi that can make someone sick. After a surgery, an instrument is crawling with them, and the entire goal of this whole process is to get rid of every single one. And this slide right here really shows you what's on the line. On one side, you have sepsis, a really dangerous body-wide infection if things go wrong. On the other side is asepsis, the complete absence of those pathogens. Getting to asepsis is the whole point of this journey. It is literally the difference between healing and harm.
So where does this fight even begin? You might think it's in some high-tech cleaning room somewhere. But, surprise, the first line of defense is actually set up while the surgery is still going on.
It's called point-of-use cleaning. The surgical team doesn't just toss used tools into a bin. Nope, they're actively wiping them down, flushing out any tiny channels with sterile water, and then keeping them moist in sterile water. Here's a cool fact. They never use saline because salt can actually corrode the metal instruments. This first step is genius because it stops all that gunk from drying and hardening, which would make the next stages way harder.
Okay, after that initial wipe down, the instruments are taken from the OR to a special decontamination area. This is where they have to run the gauntlet, a process designed to take them from dirty to being safe for staff to handle.
Now, before we go any further, we have to get these terms straight. They are not the same thing. Disinfection, that kills most microbes. Decontamination makes something safe enough for a person to touch without needing a hazmat suit. But sterilization, that's the end goal. It's absolute. It means destroying all microbial life, period.
So why all the different levels? It really just comes down to risk. Look at this table. A non-critical item like a blood pressure cuff that only touches your skin, it just needs some basic disinfection. But our scalpel, that's a critical item. Because it's going inside sterile body tissue, it requires nothing less than total sterilization.
One of the big workhorses in this area is the washer sterilizer. Honestly, you can just think of it as a super-powered industrial-strength dishwasher. It does a cool pre-rinse, a hot wash, another rinse, hits the tools with steam, and even lubricates any moving parts, which they call milking, and then dries them. Now, at the end of this, the instruments are clean and safe to handle, but, and this is important, they are not sterile yet.
All right, after making it through the decontamination gauntlet, the instruments move to a clean assembly area. This is where they get prepped for the final and most important test of their journey.
And this is where the human touch is absolutely non-negotiable. A machine can't do this. A skilled technician inspects every single instrument by hand. Are the scissors sharp? Do the clamps lock properly? Do the forceps tips line up perfectly? I mean, a clean instrument that's broken is totally useless, right? So this step ensures it's not just safe, but also works perfectly for the next surgeon.
Okay, once they're inspected and put into trays, the instruments get carefully wrapped. Now, this is not like wrapping a birthday gift. It's a very precise technique called the envelope fold that creates a perfect protective barrier. The special wrapper is designed to let the sterilizing agent, like steam, get in, but it prevents any microbes from getting back in afterwards. Pretty clever.
And here we are, the climax of the entire journey.
The wrapped trays are now rolled into a giant chamber for the final act, achieving absolute sterility.
And this is the point I really want to drive home. Sterile is an absolute. There's no such thing as mostly sterile or kind of sterile. An item is either 100% free of all living microbes, and that includes their super tough, resilient spores, or it is simply not sterile. End of story. This is the absolute state we have to achieve.
So the most common way to do this is with steam in a machine called an autoclave. But it's not just about getting things hot. It's a very precise formula, a recipe of 5 critical factors all working together. You need the right amount of time, the right temperature, and the right moisture. The steam has to physically touch every nook and cranny. And you need pressure, because that's what allows the steam to get hot enough to kill even the toughest bacteria.
But how do they know for sure that it worked? They don't guess. They use a 3-level monitoring system. First, you've got mechanical checks. That's just the machine's own printouts saying it hit the right time, temperature, and pressure. Then you have chemical indicators, the tape on the outside of the package that changes color. But the ultimate proof, the gold standard, is the biological indicator. They actually put a little vial of super-resistant, harmless spores in there. If those guys are dead, you know everything else is too.
So, after passing that final, super tough test, our instrument has finished its journey. It is officially sterile, and it's ready to start the cycle of safety all over again.
This brings us to a really fascinating idea called event-related sterility. You'd think sterile items would have an expiration date, right? Well, they don't. A properly wrapped instrument will stay sterile forever as long as its protective wrapper, its shield, isn't compromised. It's not time that makes it unsterile, it's an event, like getting a tear, being crushed, or getting wet.
And so our scalpel is back. It's sitting in a sterile storage area, looking just like a brand new instrument, waiting for its next call to action in the operating room. Its journey through this invisible gauntlet is what guarantees the safety of the very next person who needs it. Think about it. This process happens millions of times every single day in every hospital across the globe. It's an invisible, absolutely essential battle fought by dedicated technicians to make sure the tools used to heal us are themselves safe beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's a pretty amazing system, all designed to win that fight, every single time.